seeing things a little differently, appearing, disappearing, hardly innocent, nor tied down to the ground. I learned to roll and tumble with the punches, glory in my stripes and spots put by invisible, and never make a sound. But heavy is the crown that's always hidden, tender is the heart you never see. Hard and fast shines a grin that we flash, but there's a vulnerable stripe or two on me. Maybe any place outside of Wonderland is not for me, my friend. If I leave my grin behind, remind me we're all mad here, and it's okay. Sun up, sun down, the shadows hide me down in Wonderland. Wonderland, nobody knows the way, but if you find it in your dreams, you can find it at your day job, somewhere south of hell. Take the path to left or right with just your gut to guide you. The story is not for anyone else to tell. Go down the rabbit hole and out the other side. Can't go home in the middle of a magic carpet ride. You gotta greet the sun before his lovely daughter moon. You can't forsake the journey for the safety of your room until you learn your lesson well. I have learned to see and hear everybody loud and clear, but the truth comes out in riddles that are safe enough to share. That's how it is in songs you see, and stripes always look good on me, whether or not I'm really there. But heavy is the burden of the wise ones, when no one understands a word they say. The Jabberwock never bothered anyone, but nobody believes him to this day. Hey, and why should they? If I leave my grin behind, remind me we're all mad here, and it's okay. Sun up, sun down, the shadows find me out in Wonderland. Wonderland, nobody knows the way, but if you find it in your dreams, you can find it at your day job, somewhere south of hell. Take the path to left or right with just your gut to guide you. The story is not for anyone else to tell. Go down the rabbit hole and out the other side. You can't go home in the middle of the magic carpet ride. You gotta greet the sun before his lovely daughter moon. You can't forsake the journey for the safety of your room until you learn your lesson well. Learn
My name is Gail Stevenson, and I serve as a treasurer on the Board of Trustees of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spartanburg. I am delighted to welcome all who are here this morning, everyone who has joined us, whether you are here at UUCS or virtually. This is a welcoming congregation where everyone is welcome just as we each are. If you are visiting with us this morning, we would love to meet you to share more about the life of this congregation. Visitor cards may be found in the pocket on the back of the chair in front of you. Please feel welcome to fill it out and place it in the offering plate during the service so that we can connect with you. There are many important announcements in the sheets titled Connect at the back of your bulletin this morning. Please open your bulletin to see all that you can be a part of. Here are a few highlights. You have hopefully seen in the Unison and Happenings that we have shared the job announcement for our music director position. If you know someone who might be interested in this quarter-time position, please share the announcement with them. This is a congregation that likes to get into good trouble. We have an opportunity to attend a celebration of good trouble on the John Lewis Day of Commemoration and Action, which marks the 4th anniversary of the death of the late Congressman John Lewis. This Wednesday, July 17th at 4:30 p.m. at Mount Moriah Baptist Church, join others from our community for this celebration, commemorating his death and, more importantly, his life work to secure voting rights for all people. Save the date, on Saturday, October 5th, Scooja will be hosting the second UU Fall Festival in Columbia. We had a great group attend last year. Let's have an even larger group this year. We will share more information that becomes available. May we all, in all parts of our lives, strive to create a world of mutual thriving for every one of us. Thank you for being here today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Paula Swaney, and I'll be serving as your worship associate this morning. And I would like to also welcome everyone to church, both those joining us in the sanctuary and online. This morning's service will be on healing through play, and our guest speaker with Scott out will be Mary Underwood. Mary's got over 25 years of experience with expressive and play therapy. She's worked with children, souls, both in body, soul, and mind, ages 3 to mid-30s.
80s.
So, Mary?
80s.
80s. I'm sorry, why did I say 30s? Because I'm 40 and 30's really old now or something? I don't know. Mary, would you like to come forward and tell us more about our service this morning?
Can y'all hear me? Okay. I can't. I'm scared. Everyone will be looking at me.
Oh, Mary, wow, I'm sorry. It's really hard to be scared. Let's see. Can we find somebody to help? Turtle? You're very wise. Is there a way that we could help Mary today? Maybe Dragon could help Mary. He's very fierce. Dragon, would you be willing to help Mary by telling all these kind people about the service?
Of course I would. Rawr!
Mary, will you let Dragon help you tell everyone what to expect?
I guess. Hello, my name is Dragon. I'm going to tell you that today's service is going to be a little different. Mary, I think they can tell that already. Really, they seem like nice people. Maybe you could talk to them. I don't know, I'm scared. Listen, why don't you try? And I'm here if you need me. Okay, I'll try. As my friend Dragon said, today's service is going to be different. Today, in this room, we are going to mirror the play therapy room. Let me tell you a little bit about what this means. First, it means it will be interactive. You are an important and necessary part of what happens here today. In noting that, Paula is going to pass some baskets around. In the baskets, there are little things of clay, there are name tags, and there are Sharpies. Please take one of each. Do not write on your name tag yet, please, okay? Just take one of each. You might have to share Sharpies, and I'd like my Sharpies back, so when we're done, if y'all would put them back in my basket, I'd appreciate it. So, okay. Next, everything is invitational. In other words, I am going to invite you to leave your comfort zone behind. But they're in ways that are meant to be enriching, light, warm, freeing, empowering, not diminishing or shaming. And like all invitations, you are welcome to say, no, thank you. Third, this is a judgment-free zone. This includes not judging those of us who go all in on the silly, as well as not judging those who don't go in at all. Everyone is allowed to find the experience that is right for them, and your only job is to follow your heart and respect everyone else for doing the same, whatever that looks like. Just like a play therapy room, there are only a few rules, but those rules get told up front. No secret rules in the play therapy room. Those rules are, you can do whatever feels right to you, except the rules are we cannot hurt ourselves, we cannot hurt any other living being, and we cannot intentionally destroy anything in the environment. Beyond that, enjoy yourselves. Want to give an additional note about today's service. You'll see greeting one another in your your order of service. We aren't going to do it there. We're going to do the greeting as an activity once the meditation starts. So I have a surprise for you, but I want you to start thinking about a character you know in a book, movie, TV show. It could even be a famous person that their famous personality is more character. We obviously don't know the whole of them. For example, today I brought my Calvin part of self from Calvin and Hobbes. Full of energy, eagerness to play, fearless to the point of maybe not having great sense. But it's going to be a totally different service than if I brought my Eeyore part of self. Then it'd be really low and slow energy with a lot of sighing. We might get a little, y'all be ready to go by the time this was over. I brought my Eeyore part of self, so I brought Calvin instead. I think that is about it. Wait, Turtle? Turtle, are you ready? I know. You think I did okay? I think you did great. I think I am really proud of you. Mwah! Thank you. You were a huge help.
Great, Mary. You were really brave and did something really scary. I knew you could do hard things.
Thank you, Turtles.
All right. Now we'll do our chalice lighting. I think Turtle's going to maybe oversee the chalice lighting for a bit. The words of our chalice lighting are from Expressive Therapies by Kathy Maladucci. I hope I'm not butchering that. The arts have consistently been part of healing throughout the history of humankind. In the 1930s and 40s, psychotherapists began to realize that self-expression through nonverbal methods, such as painting, music making, or movement, might be helpful for people with severe mental illness. We now know that expressive therapies add a unique dimension to psychotherapy and counseling because they have several specific characteristics not usually found in strictly verbal therapies, including but not limited to self-expression, active participation, imagination, and a mind-body connection.
Please join me in hymn number 311 in your gray hymnal. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like the willow with the wind, let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to grow. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
Each week, we use the Rippling Bowl as a physical expression of the joys and concerns that we all feel as a congregation. This week, in the spirit of expression and play therapy, Mary's asked that if you're willing, able, and comfortable doing so, that as you come forward to place a stone or shell in the Rippling Bowl, that you move in ways that express what you're sharing. So if you're sharing a sorrow, you may move slowly, or with hunched shoulders, head down, you may drag a leg. If you're sharing a joy, you may spin, dance, or skip your way up to the Rippling Bowl to share. This time we'd like to invite everyone to come forward in the manner they're comfortable doing and place a shell or stone into the bowl. Thank you.
I've been staring at the edge of the water long as I can remember, never really knowing why. I wish I could be the perfect daughter, but I come back to the water, no matter how hard I try. Every turn I take, every trail I track, every path I make, every road leads back to the place I know, where I cannot go, where I long to be. See the line where the sky meets the sea, it calls me, and no one knows how far it goes. If the wind in my sail on the sea stays behind me, one day I'll know. If I go, there's just no telling how far I'll go. I know everybody on this island seems so happy on this island. Everything is by design. I know everybody on this island has a role on this island, so maybe I can roll with mine. I can lead with pride, I can make us strong. I'll be satisfied if I play along, but the voice inside sings a different song. What is wrong with me? See the light as it shines on the sea, it's blinding, but no one knows how deep it goes, and it seems like it's calling out to me, so come find me and let me know what's beyond that line. Will I cross that line? See the line where the sky meets the sea, it calls me, no one knows how far it goes. If the wind in my sail on the sea stays behind me, one day I'll know how far I'll go.
Thank you all for participating. And now we will speak the covenant our congregation has agreed to as a y'all can tell I'm winging it this morning, right? As a church without dogma, we choose to come together and we covenant to behave in certain ways when we're together and out in the world. And at times we fall short, but we show up again and we try one more time. So join me in saying the covenant of our congregation. With courage we say, we are a people of faith and hope. Together we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of a love beyond belief. Thank you. We're going to skip that greeting one another, as Mary said, and go straight to our offertory. We all come forward to this church with many gifts. We give gifts of our time, talent, and treasure. We share those not only with each other, but with our community in general. This month, our Share the Plate goes to Upstate Food, Not Bombs. And I'd like to invite Ash McNamara to come forward and tell us a little more about that. Afterwards, our ushers will bring the plates forward.
Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Ash McNamara of the Clan Dragongast, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Laughing Warrior Brigade and a community organizer. I'm here today to talk with you about Upstate Food Not Bombs, an organization which I am pleased and proud to be a part of supporting. Let me paint you a scene. It's about 90 degrees at noon when people start to roll up at the Upstate Food Not Bombs share site. Adults greet one another and catch up on news and gossip. They share grins and hugs. Children screech when they see friends. They break away from their parents and form a joyous tumble of limbs and smiles. Someone has brought a puppy who soon finds himself a member of this merry little crew, barking up at his new friends and running circles around them, tangling little giggling people in his leash. Folks arrive by car, by bike, by foot. They're unhoused or they're working poor, and they come from every community in the Greenville area. The crowd is a panoply of white and black and brown. A regular client who likes to wear a fuzzy panda mascot head shows up and is soon trailing a line of children and a dog. A well-loved old van pulls up, followed by a ragtag fleet of cars, and people pour out of every door. Within minutes, this volunteer army has transformed the dusty clearing. Out come tables and cases of water, hot food for distribution, life-saving harm reduction supplies like clean needles, condoms, and Narcan doses, heaps of bags and boxes of donated goods, either labeled for regular clients or free to distribute to everyone. They pull out tents and tarps, bins of clothing and household goods, pots and pans, COVID and AIDS tests. The pack of children starts eyeing the heap of toys, and speculation begins about who might get what. A good-natured argument breaks out about a particularly desirable toy, but it settles quickly. There are more than enough to go around. Where 15 minutes ago there was an empty bit of street, there's now a thriving community center. In an hour, it will be gone again until next week, leaving the little clearing cleaner than when they arrived there. Prep begins pretty much immediately for next week's share. The entirely volunteer force at Food Not Bombs makes this little miracle happen every single week, in the heat, in the rain, through whatever roadblocks are thrown in their way. They serve a diverse and varied community ranging from immigrants to the unhoused to sex workers and families of the working poor. Additionally, the people they serve are amongst the most vulnerable and marginalized populations in the upstate. As a direct service organization, Food Not Bombs has an extremely low bar for services. Upstate Food Not Bombs will never ask you if you are a documented immigrant before providing service. They will never ask if you are sober or straight or Christian. They will never tell you to attend a Bible study or church service in order to receive help from them. You won't be handed a bunch of forms and told to provide 3 forms of ID, proof of income, and then expect help in a few weeks. All you need to do is show up and ask. Upstate Food Not Bombs is not a 501c3 organization. As the co-founder of a small organization which chooses to eschew 501c3 certification ourselves, let me tell you why I think that's a positive. 501c3 certifications come with certain requirements for reporting to various agencies, which can get in the way of services getting to people who need immediate aid. Food Not Bombs remains flexible exactly because they are outside of that system. Money, physical items, and time donated to Upstate Food Not Bombs all go directly to help people who need it, people who may be underserved by other agencies due to their immigration legality, LGBTQ+ status, or their inability or lack of desire to become sober or leave the streets. This dedicated team of volunteers relies on donations by everyday members of the community like yourselves to keep this effort going. Look over the list of wants and needs, see if you have things they're looking for. Don't hesitate to contact them with items that might not be on the list. The needs of this community are extensive and varied. The people in charge of the distribution flexible and clever with its management. Give generously to the Share the Plate or volunteer your time. Upstate Food Not Bombs counts on your donations to continue to do the good work they do. Thank you for having me here to speak about an organization I am proud every day to work with, and thank you for helping to support these hardworking folks.
There was a time when I was alone, nowhere to go and no place to call home. My only friend was the man in the moon, and even sometimes he would go away too. Then one night as I closed my eyes, I saw a shadow flying high. He came to me with the sweetest smile, told me he wanted to talk for a while. He said, "Peter Pan, that's what they call me. I promise that you'll never be lonely." And ever since that day, I am a lost boy from Neverland, usually hanging out with Peter Pan. And when we're bored, we play in the woods, always on the run from Captain Hook. Run, run, lost boy, they say to me. Away lost boys like me are free. Neverland is home to lost boys like me, and lost boys like me are free. Peter Pan, Tinker Bell, Wendy, darling, even Captain Hook, you are my perfect storybook. Neverland, I love you so, you are now my home, sweet home forever, a lost boy at last. Peter Pan, Tinker Bell, Wendy, darling, even Captain Hook, you are my perfect storybook. Neverland, I love you so, you are now my home, sweet home forever, a lost boy at last. And for always I will say, I am a lost boy from Neverland, usually hanging out with Peter Pan. And when we're bored, we play in the woods, always on the run from Captain Hook. Run, run, lost boy, they say to me, away from all of reality. Neverland is home to lost boys like me, and lost boys like me are free. Neverland is home to lost boys like me, and lost boys like me are free.
Can you hear me? Great. First of all, I need to thank Erin for being willing to embrace 2 songs she didn't know. I am very grateful. She did an amazing job. She did an amazing job. All righty, guys. Before we dig into my meditation, we are going to play. We are going to practice a very specific form of drama therapy that was developed by Virginia Satir called a parts party. So I asked you earlier to think of a character that represents a part of you. I'm now going to ask you to put the name of that character on your name tag and to wear it. And in a minute, we're going to greet one another as the characters we have chosen. When we did this in grad school, we had Marilyn Monroe mingling with Glinda the Good Witch, Beetlejuice, Bugs Bunny, and Lancelot. There's no limit. So we'll still have to return to our seats when the music plays. Does anyone have questions? They were, what, uh-oh. Who didn't get name tags? Is the whole, okay. We go with the flow, whatever comes. Clay, you're also supposed to have Clay. Anyone who didn't get Clay name tags, is that this whole section? None of y'all got, okay. Here, I'm gonna start this one at the back. Yes, the name of the character, so like.
The name and what it is?
Well, no, you don't have to. You're just gonna embody it. So like if you say you're Bugs Bunny, you're gonna go around going, what's up, Doc? That's it, forgot. All right. Piece of clay? Oh, you already got it? Y'all got it? Okay, you got it? Everybody? Anybody else not have this? Okay. Thank you for letting me know. I could see the lost looks. Any other questions? Everybody ready? No? Okay. We'll have a minute. I can't wait to see who most of you are. You don't know who you are? You know a part of you. You have a brave part. You have a shy part. You have, I mean, anyone who, let me give you a hint, anyone who has an anxious part, you can always be the white rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. He is the epitome of that anxious energy. All righty. Most people seem to be ready to go. Let the play commence. Me and technology, we aren't always good. So you guys let me know if you can't hear me. So I want to talk about play for a minute. We are hardwired from birth to play. A prominent neuroscientist, whose name I could not begin to pronounce, so I didn't bother writing it down, has identified 7 specific brain circuits that we have from birth. These circuits lay the foundation for the primary experiences we are meant to have as humans. These circuits are rage, fear, lust, panic, but we also have seeking, which is the root of curiosity and exploration, care, and play. In fact, a weighty and growing body of evidence spanning evolutionary biology, neuroscience, and developmental psychology have in recent years confirmed the centrality of play to human life. Not only is it a crucial part of childhood development and learning, but it is also a means for young and old alike to connect with others, and a potent means to supercharge creativity, ingenuity, and innovation and engagement. Play activates the reward centers of the brain and floods us with feel-good biochemicals such as dopamine and oxytocin. Oxytocin, for those who don't know, is the bonding hormone. It is the hormone that our body floods us with when we give birth and when we have an orgasm. Both things meant to connect us to another living human being. And which is lending credence to Peter Gray, who's an evolutionary psychologist at Boston College, that play actually evolved in humans in great part to build cooperation and sharing and hunter-gatherer communities, and that it was in fact a primary means for keeping the peace, and is still our primary mechanism for social bonding throughout our lives, which is really significant in a world where countless people feel isolated, lonely, and alone. Play is fundamental, and neglecting it poses a significant health risk. Yet, despite evolutionary biologists believing that we evolved, get this, this is important, we evolved to work 2 to 4 hours, that all of our work a day, and that we evolved to spend the rest of our time sleeping, playing, and mating. So despite this evolutionary model, the average American now logs more hours working than a 14th century English peasant. The average American logs more hours working than a 14th century English peasant. It's no wonder we're struggling, guys. Play supports our mental health, mitigates our stress levels during challenging life events, improves our ability to relate to others, increases our drive, increases our hope for the future, and results in a more optimistic outlook about life. Basically, these are the things that are the bread and butter of therapy. In keeping with this theme, Brian Sutton Smith, another one of these experts, states that the opposite of play is not work. It is, in fact, depression. McNiff, who's an evolutionary psychologist, says that if we look at the past and the healing practices of indigenous people and cultures, there is considerable evidence that creative expression, playing, and healing all belong together. And through most of human history, they have been deeply, deeply intertwined. Unfortunately, we lost most of this with the Industrial Revolution. At the beginning of the 20th century, Jung anticipated everything, and if you don't know, Jung is like one of the big founding fathers of my field. Jung anticipated everything that could eventually be under the play expressive therapy umbrella. Jung understood how the hands working clay, the body interpreting a dream or emotion through movement, or all of a person's expressive faculties dramatically enacting a conflict can offer insights and solutions that cannot be accessed through more linear verbal discussions. A few pioneers in the 20s and 30s began introducing the need to incorporate play and expressive therapies into healing and began developing into distinctive fields in the 40s and 50s. Play and expressive therapies began to differentiate between non-directive and directive therapies, both with strong arguments and powerful success stories. So non-directive play therapy is still considered the gold standard with young children especially. In non-directive play therapy, you create a therapeutically rich environment. You create a safe container, both in the physical space and within the relationship you have with the child. And then you proceed to let the child completely direct the play. The therapist functions only as a witness who's being attuned, present, and reflective. It is believed that a child will naturally gravitate to the objects, activities, and processes that they need to heal, and that if we try to lead or interpret or direct, we will be interfering and creating an obstacle to that process. And when I say non-directive, I mean non-directive. So, what is this? Squid, octopus. So if you're a non-directive play therapist and a kid comes to you and says, "What is this?" Your response is, "I don't know. What do you want it to be?" That's how much we don't tell them what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to see things, or how they're supposed to heal. Directive play therapy is a process of using play and expressive tools to specifically guide the healing process. It might be, "Oh, you have to meet with the school principal next week and you're nervous about that and you don't know what to say. Why don't we do a puppet show about that meeting and practice different things you could do with different puppets?" Or it might be, "I want you to create a sand tray that shows me how you feel today." You give them broad directions because you know that those are the things that need focus. While there are die-hard, non-directive therapist people out there, they scare me a little bit. Most folks who utilize play and expressive therapies do a mix of non-directive and directive techniques. So until recently, play and expressive therapies were used almost exclusively with children, adolescents, and developmentally delayed and disabled people. As I discuss the benefits of play therapy and share examples of these tools used with adults, I hope you will see how much healing potential exists for adults as well by widely incorporating these practices into a healing work with adults. And this is especially important because as adults, we all have wounded children that live inside of us. Every single one of us. It's how we're made. If something wounds us in childhood and we can't resolve it, it gets frozen inside of us and never goes away until we resolve it. And those children can't talk about what they need in healing any better than a corporeal child. They need these techniques as well. So you're going to know why soon, but for right now, I'm going to invite you, if you haven't, to open your clay and just play with it however you want to. No specific instructions in the... So I want to talk about the benefits of play. One of the most powerful aspects of play and expressive therapies is the mind-body connection and a process called embodiment. In order to understand the vitalness of this, we're going to need to go into a little bit of very simplified brain science. So be patient with me. First, it's important to understand that we have something that's called a triune brain. That means that there are three distinct parts of our brain. First, we have the hindbrain. That is the part of the brain we share with most of the world's animals. It's also known as the lizard brain. In fact, when you're helping kids understand the triune brain, you get a lizard figurine, a person figurine, and a mammal figurine to talk about the three different parts. It scans the world for food, mates, and potential danger. It also helps us breathe, digest, all those autonomic nervous system stuff. Second, we have the midbrain, which is also known as our mammalian brain. It governs emotions and our complex survival system, which is very important. And finally, we have the frontal lobe, which is what most of us are thinking about when we say we are a brain. Because this is the distinctly human aspect of the brain. It is where our cognitive processing, problem solving, discernment, and sense of time and space in a different way than that body sense of space. So, now you know we have three parts of the brain. Now let me tell you a little bit about how our nervous system is built. When we are born, our nervous system, except for survival functions, is mostly unformed. There are circuits ready to be built, but not built yet. Language is a really good example of this. We are born with a circuit for language, but it is unformed because if it wasn't, we might be born to a Japanese family speaking Danish. So it stays unformed somewhere that it's waiting for the environment to tell it how to build itself. What language do we use in this place where I am born? So, most of our complex wiring happens after birth. And this is important. The wiring of our nervous system uses our relationship with our primary caregiver as its model. This means that if we were raised with caregivers that were emotionally and physically available, attuned, attentive, healthy, well, then our nervous system builds a foundation and a framework that says we are secure and safe, upon which it builds everything else. But if it doesn't, and let's be honest, no one's caregiver does that perfectly all the time. It's wired with a foundation and framework of deficit and danger that everything else is built on. So we have this framework that we got when we were brand new and built over time. And we're going through our daily lives. And while we're going through our daily lives, our hindbrain is scanning our environment and collecting data. When the hindbrain decides that there's potentially important data in our environment, it sends it to the midbrain. Our midbrain, that does not have any of our faculties we've talked about that we think of as how we think, mainly lives on a survival and emotion, uses whatever attachment framework got built to decide how we are going to experience that data. Basically, how we're going to feel about that data. Then the midbrain sends that to the heart, and the electrical impulses of the heart determine whether we are going to view that data as manageable or whether we're going to view that data as dangerous in some form or fashion. Then it goes to our frontal lobe. And that's the point where we are conscious of the experience we're having and are able to give it a name, such as sadness, anger, or fear. What this means is by the time we identify our emotion, our body is fully engaged with that emotion and has already decided if we are safe, without any input from our frontal lobe that understands things like past, present, and future. This is really, really important, guys. So, because of this is why embodiment and the mind-body connection is so important. Because unfortunately, our attachment-based framework is not something we can change through verbal processing. Be awesome if we could. I could get a different job. So we can't just say, I'm an adult now who can feed herself and have a nervous system go, oh, cool, let me rewire everything for you. It's not how it works. The wiring was wired through bodily experiences, and it is through the body having different experiences that the wire can be healed and repaired. How to do this, but to do this, we have to actually be inside our body. A process called embodiment. Play and expressive therapies invite embodiment. Invite us into our body so that we can have an opportunity to have a corrective experience, which allows the damage caused by the wounds in our attachment framework through experiencing sensory input, attunement, and benevolent interactions, and empowered movement. All of this, we've seen, allows the nervous system to establish new, more adaptive patterns and structures. I'm going to say this more than once, but let me say it again. We can only heal through our body, and we have to be in our body to do it. Verbal therapy not only allows people to stay disembodied often, it can very easily inadvertently reinforce disembodiment. So, speaking of movement, play and expressive therapies not only allow movement, they expect it. And this is an important benefit, especially when dealing with trauma. Beyond movement helping us be embodied, it is fundamental in trauma treatment. If a traumatic experience can be effectively resolved in the moment, it rarely results in issues like post-traumatic stress disorder. Think about it. Think about a near miss with a car accident, where your body went into survival and made you speed up really fast, a form of flee in order to miss it. We're shaken up, our system is all awire, but we miss the accident. We're okay. We aren't years down the road still fretting about the accident we didn't have, but almost did. Our survival system worked, it kept us safe, and so it did its job and it moves on. When we cannot escape, that's when we develop problems. That's where things like post-traumatic stress disorder comes from. And in a traumatic situation that cannot be escaped, movement is prohibited. Whether that is because our movement is externally restrained, we're stuck in an upside-down car and can't get out. Or whether it's because our survival system put us in a freeze response. And I could do an entire service about the freeze response, so I'm going to try to keep it short. Most of us have experienced a freeze where we couldn't move if our life depended on it. In fact, our nervous system thinks our life depends on not moving. That is also a restriction of movement, even if it is internally driven. So most people who are dealing with unresolved trauma, that trauma is stored in the body in a state of immobility. So when we move, we are disrupting the storage of that trauma inside of our body. I talk to people about getting triggered. One of the things I say is move. If you're in a room and you feel like you can't do anything, slowly move your legs, move your body. It is Vanderkolk, who's one of my favorite trauma people, says, if I have to choose between sending someone with really severe trauma to yoga or talk therapy, yoga wins every time. Moving is important, especially when we're talking about trauma. So, movement is an incredibly important aspect of expressive and play therapies. They're not still. Grounding. Let me explain what grounding is. It's a word I throw around a lot. I always have to make sure people know what I'm talking about. Grounding is when we are embodied fully in our present time and circumstance. Our midbrain has no sense of time, no past, no present, no future. This means that when our hindbrain collects sensory data similar to unresolved emotional pain from earlier in our life, our midbrain does not recognize that as something that happened in the past. It sees everything as the present. So sees that data as a present emotional pain. This is why you can be 36 and be feeling the emotional intensity of an experience that you did at 5 years old as if you are still 5 years old. To your midbrain, you are still 5 years old and still having that pain since it has not been processed. So with grounding, you once again live in your 36-year-old body emotionally. Grounding is essential to any change process because all of our power and agency lives in our present. When we become ungrounded, we get lost in space and time, and not being in our present, we have no access to the necessary components of change. Traditional talk therapy doesn't require embodiment and grounding. Now, don't get me wrong, there are good talk therapists that understand some of this stuff and they're using it. I'm not saying in general talk therapy bad. I do some talk therapy. I'm saying that not understanding these dynamics, a lot of accidental harm can be done when you're just talking to people about these things that live in their body. So, since you use your body in play and experiential therapies, embodiment is encouraged and facilitated. There's actually been some studies that show if someone gets really dissociated is like a super ungrounded, like where your body actually moves back in to that. I've had some people dissociate to a 2-year-old state and they can't talk like an adult anymore because they are so deeply in that state of being. There's studies that show that if you just hand them a coloring page and some crayons, it will help them come back and be grounded to their adult self. So, there are processes inherent in play and experiential therapies that aid grounding, such as intentional movement and attention to our sensory systems, as well as tools that are inherently grounding, such as paint, sand, and you guessed it, clay. That's why you're playing with it. If someone starts to talk to me about something that's painful in their life, I'm going to hand them a thing of Play-Doh or a thing of clay. So keep talking. Just play with the clay while you do it. It helps them stay in the present. It helps them stay grounded. I worked with an awesome little boy whose father died, and he woke up in the bed with his dead father. He was 8. He and his dad had been really, really close. And this kid, everyone else in his family was grieving. He was overwhelmed. He was traumatized. He was full of grief. And it was all too much, and very naturally, he would shut down. So he'd come in my office, and if I sat down and said, "So how are things?" he'd be like, "Okay, everything's okay." But we would walk over, I'd bring the sand tray, and he'd start running his hands through the sand. And without me saying anything, while his hands ran through the sand, he started talking about everything that he was experiencing, how he was feeling, how he was processing his fears, his hopes, his angers, his hurts. And he'd stop, take his hand out of the sand, and we were back to. It was such an effective tool with him that I got his mom to buy him his own sand tray, so he could use that mechanism to help even himself out, ground himself, and have himself in a safe enough space to be in his present life, in his present body. Another benefit of, and I love this one, you'll notice I love a lot of this actually, you'll have to forgive me. This has many different names. One of my favorite teachers calls it physicalizing. It's also been called concretization and crystallizing. But basically, this is a process by where we take what is inside of us, inside of our bodies, and move it into the environment, where it can be seen, processed, understood, and transformed. This is really important because while it's inside of us, it's so activating that we can't see it clearly. But putting it outside of us gives us a chance. I'm going to use an example from my own life. So I'm in grad school, and being who I am, I always volunteer to be the guinea pig. So we were doing a technique called Satir's family sculpture. So what you do in Satir's family sculpture is, we were a class, so you pick people to be every person in your family, including you. And then you physically sculpt them, however it feels right. So I had this big sculpture that I did. I picked people, we were close in that class, and sculpted them. And then once they're sculpted, you go around and you ask everyone, what are you feeling? I would like to point out that I had been in very good therapy for over 5 years at this point in time. I had talked about the issue of family and difficult aspects of it for those 5 years. I could have written you a dissertation on it. I understood it so well. But there was one family member that I had this very difficult relationship with that I desperately wanted to be close to. And all my efforts were rejected, and it hurt, and I didn't understand. But we were going around the sculpture, and everyone was talking about how they feel, and we got to the person who represented this family member. And she looked at me and she said, this is hell. This is impossible. You can't ask me to bridge this. I either have to be with you or I have to be with them. And I changed on a dime and never changed back in understanding that I was asking for something this family member could not do. And I got it in a way I had never gotten it before because it was put outside of me. And it allowed me to let go of that hope without personalizing it, without feeling like it's because I wasn't good enough, in a way that I'm not sure I ever could have gotten on my own. But that externalization is a very powerful thing. So I'm going to give you another example of physicalization. So this is not exactly the characters they chose because I do want to use people's confidentiality. Most of the examples I'm giving you are mostly true but changed enough that you would never know who they were. Okay. So was talking to someone that had this really mean voice in their head that was like, you're ugly, no one loves you, you're unlovable, everyone hates you, you're the worst, and you're terrible. And I said, go pick a figurine to represent that part of self. So they picked a very scary figurine to be that part of self. And I said, okay, well, let's talk to that part of self. So we pulled it up, and I'm like, I'm curious. What you mad at? Why do you need to be mean? Why do you, what? Well, I'm sorry, I worked hard on this. I hope you got, is it already 10 after? Oh my God, I've only done a third of this. That is disappointing, let me tell you. Okay. Maybe not even a third. Okay, well, just know there's a ton of stuff we didn't talk about. But I'll finish this example. I'm so disappointed. Okay, finish this example. So I said, please pick a figurine. And they picked a scary thing. And so we started talking to them about how they feel, what's your job, why do you do this? And we finally got to, why do you have to be mean? Why is that your job? And the character, not the client, the character said, because if I'm scary, they can't hurt me anymore. And I said, oh, so you're a costume. You're a costume that you wear to try to keep you safe. Yes. And I said, would you mind showing me what you look like underneath the costume? And they picked a little child in a sweet little pose. That this is what this actually looks like outside of the costume. So we were able to talk about what made you need to put the costume on. It must be really hard to wear that big, heavy, hot costume all the time. What if we could find another way for you to be safe so you didn't have to do that anymore? Not only was this helpful to me as a therapist, my client was blown away to find out that this was really this. It was not an insight that they were able to have until we physicalized it and took it outside of them. So, I'm very sorry that I did not plan my time well. Y'all would be shocked how much I actually called from this. I called so much, and I still got a quarter of this done. I hope that y'all got a little bit out of the quarter I did. There's a whole lot more. Maybe I'll share it some other time. It's already written. But what I do want to do is give you one last thing. Even though we didn't get there yet, the clay you have is air-dried clay. So I want you to create a talisman. It's your play talisman that you're going to have, that when you look at it, you're going to remember that play is living in your heart and so desires of being let free. So make whatever figurine that is for you, and if you let it sit for 12 hours, it's air dry clay, and it'll stay in that. Oh, and y'all, it's not a hymn, but I did have an idea of us singing this as a hymn. So if you don't know this song, it's pretty easy, little rhythm. So if y'all don't mind standing up and singing this song like it's a hymn, that'd be awesome.
Well, if you want to sing out, sing out. And if you want to be free, be free. 'Cause there's a million things to be. Know that there are. And if you want to be high, be high. And if you want to be low, be low. 'Cause there's a million ways to go. You know that there are. You know it's up to you. Anything you can do. And if you find a new way, you can do it today. You can make it all true, and you can make it undo. You see, it's easy. You only need to know. And if you want to be her, be her. And if you want to be you, be
Creative therapies allow for mistakes and wounds to be integrated into the creative process. It is the witness to suffering. It educates the instinct and impulses. It allows for do-overs and empowered enactment of future imagined selves. It allows chaos and order. It creates its own container, whether a picture or the body itself. It allows for us to tell the secret, to speak the taboo. It is uniquely suited to the nonverbal aspects of our emotional lives. It bridges into the unconscious and out into the world.
Play and expressive therapies are a path that allow us to escape our emotional fragmentation and to engage in the creative act of becoming whole, where all of our inner depths and richness are given coherence, and where it can be born with the intention that we use it.
We have spent